How do we receive mail as full-time RVers? This week, that's what we're going to be talking about. Come on and join us.
So what we do is we get mail at our daughter's home. It's pretty easy for us. We didn't realize just how easy we have it, but every couple of weeks she opens the mail, she takes pictures of it, she emails it to us, and then we let her know what to do with it. And she might deposit a check for us. She might occasionally forge our names and send something back for us. But it's pretty simple. Like, getting mail is one of the least worries that we have on the road. For other people, though, we've learned that it's kind of a bigger deal. Like, getting mail also has to do with where you're going to reside as a full-time RVer. So a lot of RVers choose to change their domicile and get mail in Florida, South Dakota, or Texas. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about that today because that is a topic all in its own. But for us, getting mail at our daughter's house works. For others, you might need to use an RV forwarding service. So let's talk about that. What kind of RVers need someone else to get their mail? There's a couple of types of RVers is what I've figured out. By the way, I did all this research because our daughter, who graciously said she would get our mail for a few months while we hiked the Pacific Crest Trail in 2019, has now been doing it for 2 years. Well, actually, 3 years. So she's been checking our mail for 3 years. We've been getting mail at her and her husband's house. Well, that works great until like 3 weeks ago, they just had a brand new little baby. And we thought maybe we should think about doing something different for getting our mail, since now they have their hands full with an adorable little guy. We'll put a picture up. He's so cute. Anyway, that's why I started looking into it. What else could we do to get mail? What else should we do to get mail? And what can you do to get your own mail if you're a full-time RVer? So really, there's a couple kinds of RVers. There's some like us. We sold our house. We sold a lot of our possessions, put some in storage, and we are full-time in this truck camper. Then there are other people who are still full-time RVers, but they have a home base. Maybe they still have their house. Maybe they sold their house and bought a piece of property somewhere, but they still have a home base where they can actually physically get mail. So that's kind of the breakdown. Either you're getting mail at your own place still and somebody's checking it for you, or you don't have a place to get mail and you figure out another solution. What RV mail forwarding services are available? This was a big question for me when I started looking at it, so I did what I always do, and I went to the Facebook groups. If you're not already a member of Facebook, RV groups, truck camper groups, I really suggest doing that. There's a pretty active group for full-timers, and I asked in a couple of the different groups that we are part of what people use, what service do they use. So over on our website, I go into it a little bit more in depth. I won't bore you with all the details here, but some of the big names are places like Escapees RV Club. They're in Florida or South Dakota. St. Brendan's Isle in Florida. A lot of people use them. America's Mailbox is in Box Elder, South Dakota. Quite a lot of people use them. So those choices, you can see they're either Florida or South Dakota primarily, because that's when it comes into play for folks who want to set up a domicile in one of those states. Like I said, those states are super friendly to RVers, and their tax structure is such that it's favorable for RVers. Then there are a few just online services that people use. It seems like the most common ones from times I've asked is ipostal1.com, postscan.com, travelingmailbox.com. Now I think that if we switch to a service, I'm probably going to use travelingmailbox.com. What I like about it is that you could get your own street address in a city, hopefully that's near where you actually live or go. For us, we want to keep our domicile in Oregon. It's just easier for the time being. We get our health care there. We have our cars, trucks, well, we don't own cars anymore, I guess, but we get our truck and camper and my Vespa registered there. So we're keeping Oregon as our residence state. And Traveling Mailbox actually has street addresses that we could use in Portland. So another question that I know you're going to ask me is, what does it cost to have an RV mail forwarding service? And from everything that I've looked at, it's not super expensive. You can get basic services for around $10 a month. What I liked about Traveling Mailbox website is that they break that down. So for $10, I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but for $10 a month, say you can get like 10 pieces of mail a month. And maybe their costs go up to about $50 for premium services. And that might mean that you could get 40 pieces of mail a month. So for Steve and I right now, we probably get, what, 10 pieces of mail a month, you'd say?
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't get that much anymore. The biggest thing about getting mail as a full-time RVer is don't get mail. Like, for us, we put everything that we can online. Like, we get our bank statements online, we get our car insurance statements online. If it's possible to do it automatically, we do it so that we don't have paper mail. Occasionally, you get stuff. So in the last 2 months, here's our little stack that our daughter saved for us. This is our stack to shred. It has things like our debit cards came in the mail again. It was time for those to renew. A little bit of health insurance information. And then a little bit of mail, I don't know, life insurance. We both got life insurance renewals. So some mail to save. So I'd say in the last 2 months at our daughter's house, we probably got 25 pieces of mail maybe. A lot of it is just junk. Like, we'll just shred it right away. We don't really get junk mail per se at our house anymore. The biggest ones are AARP and AAA. Like, please reinstate your membership. So mail forwarding service does pretty much the same thing that our daughter Taylor does. She actually opens our mail. I think a lot of those will just take a picture of the envelope that you received and let you know then, do you want them to open that envelope for you? Do you want them to scan the contents of it? Do you want them to shred it? Do you want the mail forwarding service to literally forward the mail to you? So maybe you're going to be in Arizona for the month of January, which I highly recommend. But maybe you're going to be in the month of Arizona and you know where you're going to be staying. So the mail forwarding service could literally just forward your mail to you at the RV park you're staying at. So they cost $10 to $50 a month depending on what you choose. And it's a pretty good, safe way to get your mail while you're a full-time RVer.
The unexpected opportunity for communication with our daughter really was in the beginning when she was handling our mail for us. So I'd quit my job and given notice to quit, when we'd actually started our adventure. And I didn't realize it, but the company policy where I worked was that once you give notice, they terminated direct deposit. So we had not planned to have our daughter do banking for us, but we were already gone. So our daughter ended up getting my paychecks, depositing the paychecks for us, which was fine. It was just something we didn't really anticipate, that our daughter would be completely immersed in our finances, but she was. Nothing wrong with it, but something to be aware of if you are getting ready to quit your job and hit the road right away. Something to think about. For us as well, as far as finances and our daughter, I think we were getting like our quarterly investment reports, like snail mail. And then suddenly it's the reality of, our daughter is now opening all of our investment information and she can look at that. Nothing wrong with that. That didn't bother us, but it was just something that's I was not necessarily prepared for, of the full Monty finances to one of our kids. nothing wrong with it, but just be aware, unless you go to your financial institution on their website or whatever, or your financial investor or whatever, and like terminate all kinds of snail mail, whomever is handling your mail is going to get an eyeful of all of your finances. So just something to think about. There's a key difference between relying on a family member to handle your mail and relying on a service to handle your mail. And part of that may be in timeliness. So with a younger daughter, younger generation than I, she has been very much weaned away from snail mail. So at her house, maybe they check the mail every 2 to 3 weeks versus our own experience. Last time we were in brick and mortar, we were checking our snail mail on a daily basis, maybe every other day. So with the mailing service, you're going to get a scanned copy or whatever it is you're paying for, pretty quickly. When you're going to a family member, I think it's a realistic expectation to talk up front. How often do we expect you to check the mail, or how often are you going to check the mail? Maybe not even an expectation, just so you understand what your family member is going to do for you. A challenge that plays out for us sometimes is in medical bills. We're paying our bills online. We visit a doctor when we're back in Oregon. They send a bill, we see it online, but then we also get a snail mail copy, which we've tried to turn off, but sometimes we still get paper copies. So that our daughter will check the mail sometimes 3 weeks later. There's a bill there that we've already paid. So it can create some confusion just from the time lag between when snail mail communication was sent, when it's received, and then when we get a scanned copy. For us, it still works. But for you, it's something just to think about and consider up front. If you're going to have a family member do this, what are your expectations for timeliness as far as someone opening the mail, scanning the mail, and then sending it to you? I think Noelle touched on it, though. The key really here is stop getting snail mail.
What if you're not thinking about being a full-time RVer who needs to get mail, but instead you're going to maybe be gone for the summer, like 2 or 3 months? How's the best way to get your mail? We've done things differently. When Steve was hiking the Pacific Crest Trail, we often got mail general delivery to post offices. We just look ahead of where we're going to be going. Same for RVing. We look ahead where we're going to be going, and then we have the kids or Amazon or whoever send us a package or send us mail general delivery at the local post office. So that's a really great option. You could also rent a P.O. box and then have your mail forwarded from the U.S. Post Service for a few months. I don't think I would forward your actual home address mail if you were going to be shorter than a couple months. Like, it doesn't seem to make much sense to me. But you can get a P.O. box. And then the other thing that we do is, even as full-timers, as short-timers, whatever, we still get mail or packages at RV parks that we're going to be at. We don't stay at RV parks for very long generally, but if we know we're heading into a specific city, town, then we look up the address, call ahead. We always call ahead and make sure the mailing address is the same as the street address, and we get mail sent to us at RV parks. That's a pretty common way. Like, pretty much any park you go into, you'll see they have a table now, or shelves or something designated for everybody's Amazon packages. So it's a very common way to get mail now, is through an RV park that you're staying at.
We use the Amazon hub lockers wherever possible. The hub locker is so simple. You just change your shipping address on Amazon, you send it to the hub locker. Once it arrives in the locker, you have 7 days, I think, to pick up your package. Sometimes the biggest challenge is finding a hub locker. Big towns, they're all over the place. Small towns, not so much. So we end up sending a lot of our Amazon purchases to friends and family. So as we're planning our trip, we see, hey, we're coming by Jack and Mary Carroll, and then in Amazon we set up like an address sending to Jack and Mary Carroll, and then we send a package there. So our friends and family are always really polite about it, but I suspect sometimes they are a little annoyed when we have a lot of packages that are coming in. So we try to coordinate to ship everything like the last couple days before we arrive. And then we let our friend or family or whomever know, like, here's the packages we're expecting.
We try to remember to let them know.
Yeah, sometimes we don't do so well, and then packages just show up. But
That's how they know we're coming home.
Yeah, so we end up doing a bit of it's just a variation of whether we're sending something to a hub, whether we're sending it to a friend's house or a family member's house. And then once we arrive wherever, then it's just a process of going through all of our Amazon packages. And usually the Amazon packages, these are not things that we want to buy necessarily at a Walmart or a Camping World. For a lot of things, Amazon is cheaper than buying it in person. And sometimes it's just simpler to buy it through Amazon. So in this case, on the trip we just came home from, we had about 8 or 9 different Amazon packages waiting for us, and they all fit down into a small box when we were done. I'll show you the box. So in the box, this is just all of our parts, spare parts that we needed for our upcoming solar project, and it was just simpler trying to buy all of this stuff on Amazon and have it shipped here than it would be once we get here to then drive around and try to buy all of these things. So sometimes Amazon is just a simple way to go. So which RV mail forwarding option is best for you?
It's just going to depend on what your needs are, how much snail mail you get. If you have a friend or family member who's willing to get your mail for you, or if you think a mail service is best. Like I said, hop on over to our website. I kind of broke down the services a little bit more, give you a better idea of which one to choose. So feel free to take a look over there. And just know for us, getting mail is a pretty small part of being full-time RVers. Like, we do almost everything online, so getting snail mail isn't such a big deal anymore.
No.
Like, it did used to be, probably, when fewer things were available online, but
I think we saw, in our initial time of traveling, when we, got rid of brick and mortar, in the beginning we had a large amount of mail that was still coming, like magazine subscriptions that we let expire, or we had, whatever was coming, like associated with magazines, the junk mail with that. Over time, all of that has dissipated. Like, we didn't renew magazines. Some of that junk mail just naturally stopped. And everything that we could, we have switched online. So maybe 20 years ago, this was like a really big deal. I don't think
for
so
us, it's
today.
a small part of our full-time RV life.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice to know that there are lots of options available, though.
So over the course of our upcoming episodes, we're going to try to delve into some of the questions that you guys have been asking us about. Healthcare is one of them. Mail was one of them. There's something you would like to talk about or have a question about?
What's it really like to be a full-time RVer?
Yeah. For
you
us,
have questions, we have answers.
They may not be good answers, but
we have some answers.
Yeah. For us, as we're moving forward, this summer, we are in a season of dry docking. So we've made our way back to the Pacific Northwest. We had a grandbaby arrive that we told you about. We have another grandchild that's graduating high school in another month or so. So we're
not even that. Oh,
3
yeah,
weeks.
I guess.
3 weeks,
I guess.
So we are stationary in the Pacific Northwest for probably the next month and a half. And really our goal while we're here, I'm calling it our dry docking, is to do all of the projects on the camper that we're not able to do when we're out traveling. So we have access to tools, we have access to space. It's time to do some projects that are long overdue. So that's kind of where we're headed over the next 2 months, I think, in our episodes. So definitely biggie is solar. So
yeah.
That was the big box you saw down here. That's some solar components.
Cupcakes getting some more solar.
Yeah. So lots of fun stuff coming, but we really do want to hear from you about where you would like to see us go. So leave a comment, drop us a line. Love to hear from you.
Want to see us go?
With the episodes.
Oh.
Tell us where you would like to see us.
Tell us what questions you have about what it's like to be a full-time RVer, and we'll try to give it our best answer.
Okay. Thank you. See ya. Which option is best for you? That's my intro.